Live. All right, let the ear rape begin. What is up, everybody? My name's Mark. Welcome to Sir Hunt's Reviews, and I'm joined by Quinn from Ideas of Ice and Fire. We're here to discuss the Queen in all of her glory, Daenerys. Before we get started, Quinn, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you at, good sir, and about what kind of content you make?
Yes, I'm Ideas of Ice and Fire on YouTube. And I make all kinds of videos on fantasy and sci-fi. And I also do Game of Thrones. And A Song of Ice and Fire, Dune, Foundation, King Killer Chronicles, pretty much anything. So check me out.
Nice. And you just dropped several Dune videos the past couple days. I've been catching up on those. So I myself am a huge fan of those. I had only seen the movies like when they were replayed on Sci-Fi. I think they were from like the early 90s. We talked about this at the Common Thrones, I think. But those Dune movies from like I think it was the early 90s. Might have been the 80s.
I mean, okay, so there's one that came out in the 80s, and that was David Lynch. And then Sci-Fi did like two miniseries from like 2000 to 2003.
Okay, so that might have been the mini series that I saw then, because it was
probably
it's like mirroring me. It's weird. All right, so yeah, what we're gonna do in this video, like title suggests, we're going to discuss some of our favorite things about Daenerys, and then we are going to take some questions. I had some awesome a block of like White Walker / like in-game questions I want to get to first, and then we're gonna take some from the chat. But Quinn, do you want to tell everyone? I mean, you don't have to tell everyone all the reasons, but do you want to kind of give everyone a heads up as to why Daenerys is one of your favorite characters?
Okay, so I like Daenerys because she's an archetype, right? And what I mean by that is that she is kind of like a mythic figure, and she has such an epic transformation and an epic journey in both the books and the show. And I get why a lot of people kind of don't like Daenerys because they say she's like a Mary Sue or whatever, but you know, it's like this character is not, I feel like this character almost has to be taken thematically and symbolically. You can't just look at her as a character. She's a symbol of fire and rebirth and change and motherhood. She's more of a symbol to me than a character. And I just really like how George R. Martin embodies the fire archetype in this character specifically, because fire is kind of like wild and untamable, kind of like Daenerys is. And fire will change a scenario rapidly. Let me stop mirroring you. You know, take you off the screen. Yeah. Because it's just like, I am also Sir Hunt's.
Yeah, it was weird. I was like, it's throwing me off. I was like, it's showing me, but he's talking.
That's the twist.
Yeah, I was about to say real quick, whoever I made a mod recently who's like taking people's wrenches away. Please stop fucking doing that. Like, I don't know who. There's someone that I made a mod in the last live stream that I did, and there was someone that had a comment blocked by this moderator. I don't know who it is, but whoever the fuck it is, stop. I'm just gonna have to strip down everyone's wrench status and slowly add them back one by one. That was like, what the fuck? Anyway, yeah, I agree, man. Fire is in this kind of briefly touched on this in the last live stream. Like Robert from In Deep Geek read a poem from Robert Frost, like the poem of Ice and Fire or whatever. I'm not sure the actual name of it, but that's one of George's heavy influence. I had mentioned it briefly in the video, but you can honestly say the duality goes all the way into it, and that's part of it. Like how you were saying, fire is ever changing. As far as like honestly, the first season, like talking about why I started liking Daenerys, first season, it was like this white-haired woman who like you expect to do big things, but she's in a really shitty situation. So the first emotion I felt towards her was sympathy. And then initially that turned into, you're like, hell yeah, she's a badass. So I'm gonna root for her in every sort of way. But you know, the nudity helped. But at the first the first like emotion that made me feel something towards her was like sympathy for, obviously, you know, seeing a woman in distress in that sort of situation.
Yeah, because Viserys was such a douchebag. Yeah, sympathy, I think, is a big part of Daenerys' story too, because she's so young in the books, especially, and to see her kind of like go through all this, that like a young girl should never have to go through any of that. But yeah, it's also awesome to watch her rise out of that and kind of literally rise like a phoenix. I know that's kind of a cliche, but that's what happens. Like she rises like a phoenix from the ashes, literally. and like brings dragons into the world. And like you said, you do get the sense that she will do great epic things. That is highly like just implied, that you definitely get the sense of like just waiting greatness.
Yeah,
that she will change the world.
Hell yeah. It's not just like that they focus on her. You know, I keep going back to the TV show because, you know, I mentioned this before. Most of your or most of my knowledge is TV show. I'm not gonna, you know, but another thing too is like they focus on all these different characters from season 1. So if you've never read the books and you're just an average show watcher like I was the first time I watched the show, you're like, okay, well, they're focusing on all of these other people, but I still get the significance of her being the most important. And honestly, most of the characters in season 1, they get, for the most part, equal story time. Like when we're visiting with her, there's a lot of scenes with Viserys and there's also a lot of scenes with her. So you kind of don't really, you know what I mean? It's just so well written that we're just like, okay, something's epic is going on there. And it's not just because she got naked. I know a lot of people are saying that in the chat. That is one of the reasons for sure. But, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, there's also like an extreme sense of like mythology and prophecy surrounding Daenerys. Like even in the show, like it's like her being special is hinted at in the very first episode. Like when she is in the water and then the servant runs up and she says, "It's too hot, milady." And she still gets in the water because like the hot water is not affecting her. It's like scalding hot and she still gets in the bath. And so that right there is already hinting at the fact that she's a little bit special. In the show, they take it a step further. Like she's completely fire immune, which is not a thing in the book. She's not totally fire immune, but she is in the show. And then also you get stuff like Quaithe showing up in the show, like who is this woman? And then you get like the House of the Undying. So you know that dragons and their proximity has something to do with making magic stronger, because that's established in the show, season 2. Like the what's his name? Pyat Priest straight up tells Daenerys, when your dragons were reborn, our magic was reborn, and you'll stay here forever, and we'll absorb your power or whatever. So yeah, there's definitely some kind of magical energy surrounding her, like a magical aura. And I think that's what the warlocks at Qarth were attempting to steal from Daenerys, because there is some kind of like essence that is surrounding her. Okay, one more thing. Robert Jordan, who is a great fantasy writer, and George R. Martin has definitely read Robert Jordan. He was hugely inspired. Certain people in that universe, which is called the Wheel of Time, are what they call Talviren. And that basically just means that the Wheel of Time weaves itself around certain people, so they're very important. And like basically fate weaves itself around them. And I kind of view Daenerys as like that type of character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like basically she's got a path later, or the story works around whatever she does, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense when you think about that. That her and Jon, you know what I mean? In like how you were saying, she on the television show, she kind of embodies fire. Like that's not really a thing in the books. Like they're more so like heat resistant, if anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In the books, but with her, I think what the TV show is trying to go for is she's supposed to be symbolic of fire, so therefore fire can't hurt fire. And then Jon is supposed to be the ice, and this may be why he was able to die and come back, because he is ice embodiment. So technically, his innards and all of the good parts were actually they were on ice too, so he was pretty much frozen. That's probably could be why there's so much of him intact. But I think it'll be interesting to see this dynamic when Jon finds out that he's also half fire, and maybe if he'll embrace that side. I know we're talking about Daenerys here, but how do you think Jon's going to react to that? I've been trying to get everyone that I collab with what their reaction's going to be. But what do you think, Jon? How do you think he's going to react when he finds out?
To being Targaryen?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining Jon Snow's shocked face when he realizes that Daenerys is his aunt. And it's just like, I can't wait to see it, because he's so like, oh, I'm Jon Snow, I'm so noble. Never do anything like that. And she's a fucking aunt. Now what, bitch? I would love it. Can't wait. But the question is, I wonder if Jon Snow is also fireproof like Daenerys is. But then the thing is, Daenerys would also be a much purer Targaryen strain than Jon Snow. So like, I guess if you're just going by the show, then like she's fireproof because she's like a pure Targaryen strain, and he's like mixed in there with some other stuff. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe with Daenerys, maybe what the show was trying to do was that not all Targaryens are fireproof, because we saw Viserys obviously Golden Crown. He's not a real
Yeah.
dragon. Maybe it was the actual dragon eggs. Once they were gifted to her, that's what instilled her with the fire ability. So maybe once all the dragons die, she won't have that ability anymore, and then she will be able to succumb to fire. Or maybe since Viserion died, that weakened her fire magic. So maybe she may not have as much control over Rhaegal and Drogon. I don't know.
That's interesting because that also goes back into the difference this book to show, because in the show, like she totally just has control over those dragons. Like I don't, what season was that when it was season 6 where she like comes back to Marine and the dragons just like fuck up the boats and stuff like that. Like out of nowhere, they're just like obeying her and following her. In the books, nothing like that ever happens. Those dragons will not listen to her. Even Drogon is just like, she can't even steer him to go where she wants him to go. He'll just like fly wherever he wants. So it's interesting in the show that she has so much control over them. I don't know what it is. I guess it's like a kind of similar to something like the Warg thing. She's got some kind of psychic connection, because in the show, Drogon definitely felt her when she was in danger, as he feels her energy or something like that, as opposed to in the book when he just smells the blood and hears the noise.
Yeah, I think that may be like, you know how in the wild there's a connection between mothers and their children. Maybe that's sort of like what Daenerys has
with the dragon.
Yeah.
I see that as well, because she literally, well, not literally, but she did birth those dragons. Like you were saying that the dragons like kind of awakened this like fire and magic inside of her. I feel like in the same way she like awoke something in them, because like it's not like the first time that people have tried to hatch like dragon eggs, right? So it's like maybe something about the dragon eggs being near her for so long and her being near them changed both of them, and that was the reason they were able to be born, or something like that.
Yeah, that would be, because they were, I'm sure, like, if those dragon eggs, weren't they supposed to be fossilized, if I'm not mistaken? Like, that's how old they were?
They were stone, literally.
Yeah, so maybe someone had tried to do it. Maybe we'll find out in Fire and Blood in November, but maybe someone had tried to do it before and they weren't successful. So like you said, that makes perfect sense, that not only did they awaken her fire magic, but she awoken theirs, and that's how they were actually able to hatch. That's awesome.
Do we know for a fact that Aegon V tried it at Summerhall? That's what happened at the tragedy. He brought 7 dragon eggs, and he had wildfire, and he wanted to hatch them because he had like become obsessed. And this is like Daenerys' great grandfather, I want to say, or something like that. I might be wrong on that, but like he suddenly just got obsessed with finding dragons and hatching dragon eggs, right? And so he did this, and it ended up like setting everything on fire. And this was the place. During this fire, Rhaegar Targaryen was born, Daenerys' oldest brother. So it's interesting. So it happened at least once before.
Yeah, I honestly think that he would have been successful. I think that was the Maesters, like having, a little bit of influence over that. I think they may have, if not the Maesters directly, maybe they had pyromancers. Like it's just suspicious. You know what I mean?
Summerhall, there's something going on in Summerhall. Like,
and maybe we'll find out more, like at the when we get more of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, or the Hedge Knight or whatever. This is Aegon from the Duncan Egg series, so maybe by the end of that story, we'll find out what happened there, or maybe we'll find out what happened in Fire and Blood. I don't know. It'd be awesome.
I feel like the ghost of High Heart from the books knows something. That little lady, because she says she was very close to Jenny of Oldstone, who I believe was her daughter. But she says, I gorged on grief at Summerhall. She says this to Arya. She says, I gorged on grief at Summerhall. I need none of yours. So that's interesting. What does she know? She knows something. She's there.
Yeah, she appears to multiple people, doesn't she?
I am pretty sure she shows up twice in the book, and both times are at the top of the hill on High Heart, and it's with Arya and the Brotherhood Without Banners. And I know Tyrion mentions her in A Dance with Dragons. He says that, according to rumors, there's like a psychic dwarf witch that lives in the Riverlands or something like that. But she only shows up in Arya's chapters, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, she's definitely knows something's going down there. So okay, let's we're gonna, I guess, start jumping into the questions here in a second. But if you had to choose, you mentioned this on the panel briefly, and I uploaded part of that, which I I'm not sure if that was one of the panels that someone else had uploaded to YouTube, but if not, I'll upload it. How do you feel like her journey is going to end? Just to make it simple on the show, you can mention how you think it's going to end in the books too. That's fine. I just want to know how you think. Like, is it going to end with her dying to save Jon, dying in childbirth, or what are your thoughts on that?
It could go either way at this point. It's very, very difficult to tell at this point. Honestly, in the show, I think she'll live. I think she might live. I see her survive. I don't know. It's so hard. Either she'll live and like either she'll live and at least one dragon will live, or she'll die and all of the dragons will die. That's what I think. I don't see Daenerys going on without the dragons, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think that her journey is linked to the dragons, but I think they're ultimately like they're her children, but part of the bitter sweet part of the ending, the bitter part of it will be that they have to die because they were really, at the most part, she's only using them as a tool to better herself, to get her to where she needs to be. You know what I mean? There's no like, there's no episodes where she's like going to the supermarket trying to find the best food for her dragons. You know what I mean? Like she looks at them as family and they're her children, but they're used as tools. So what do you really, damn, my stomach is fucking rumbling. I don't know if the mic picked it up, but Jesus Christ. But if anything, like when you finish a job, what do you do with your tools? You just, you set them down and you don't use them anymore. So I agree that the dragons have to go in the end, but I don't think Daenerys has to. I think if anything, it's going to come down to, we get either her or Jon Snow, or both her and Jon Snow live, but there's no kids. So they're like the last of House Targaryen. I don't know.
I feel like the show would have a lot of balls if they kill off Daenerys and Jon Snow and then Cersei lives. I feel like that would be the greatest, like, fuck you in like fantasy history. Like Lord of the Rings, what? Happily ever after what, bitch? Cersei's queen. Fuck off.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of her wanting to, like, her living towards the end, not necessarily in a position of power, but just becoming humanized. Because like one of the times we see Cersei at her most vulnerable is when she's in that cell and she's being treated like how a regular citizen would. That's the time when I truly felt pity for her. So I feel like that may be the best punishment, because death is almost too easy of an escape. It's like you die and then bam. You know what I mean? You don't have to pay for any of your crimes. But if she is left alive, and then this would be a good twist for her too, is if she is left alive and then she thinks she's about to get away with everything and then she gets captured. You know what I mean? And that's like her last. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, but look, one of the messed up things about history, though, and George R. R. Martin is a history buff. You know, sometimes the bad guys get away with it, and they stay in power for their entire lives, and they die in the lap of luxury, and then sometimes that happens, and the kingdom is fine, and the kingdom prospers, even though the leader is like terrible and evil and fucked up. And sometimes you have like a totally good, kind-hearted ruler, and shit's falling apart. So I mean. It would be a very George thing, because I always go back to him talking about the ending of the Lord of the Rings and how much he hates it, because it's just basically like Aragorn becomes king and he's a good king and he lives happily ever after, and that's it. And it doesn't tell you like what happens to the orcs. Like, did he go like genocide the orcs, or like what was his like foreign policy and like all these other different things. So I don't know, man. I feel like already in the show, Cersei has been a pretty good queen ever since she like stepped into power and she actually got the crown on her head and sat on the throne. I mean, she's been kind of winning, and against not too good odds. I mean, Daenerys has fucking dragons, and Cersei's been kind of holding her own. So I'm just like, I don't know. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. Who said that? It was Cersei.
Wasn't it Tyrion?
Cersei said that.
Okay.
Cersei said that to Ned Stark. She says, when he confronts her about those kids, she says, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're all in for a shock. And that's one thing that I love about the show, is no matter which way you think, you might got it figured out. You know, they always find some way to sort of just blow our expectations or what we were, thought we were guaranteed to get. They always blow it away or turn it on its head. All right, so did you have anything else that you wanted to mention about our Queen Daenerys before we move into the Q&A?
I just love Daenerys. I don't think she's a Mary Sue. Like I said, I think she's an archetype, and I don't really get the hate. I don't know if it comes from the fact that she's a strong woman. I don't want to like be like all feminist, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. People are fucking crazy. I don't know why people do the things they do. But yeah, I like her. Whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more. I mean, that's part of the reason. And if some people like, here's the thing: if you have an issue with Daenerys and you're watching this video right now, or you're watching it after it's already been live, write down in the comment section. Let's debate why you don't like her. Because I realize like with not with any character on Game of Thrones, but with certain characters before when I'm watching certain Marvel movies, I don't like them for whatever reason, but I can't come up with a reason why. You know what I mean? Until I actually think about it. And I'm like, am I really the only reason why I don't like this person is because it's a woman who I don't think it's believable that she's in the position that she's in? And then I ask myself that, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That kind of is it. Maybe I need to back the fuck up off of my, masculinity training. It's not about necessarily being a feminist. It's about saying like it's equal. It's a make-believe story. So if a guy can do these fucking crazy things in this make-believe world, why can't anyone else do it? You know what I mean? So I think it might be that. And maybe if you have a reason with Daenerys of why you don't like her, but you can't really put a finger on it, or you don't think it's a valid reason, maybe it is because she's a strong woman in power, and that's not depicted in Hollywood on your day-to-day basis. So when you see it on a massive TV show like Game of Thrones, you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So just because you aren't used to seeing it, I don't know.
Also, I think another reason people hate her is Stannis. I think Stannis fans. I look. I don't hate Stannis, but I feel like Stannis fans get really butthurt about Daenerys. Like, fuck that bitch, Stannis is Azor Ahai. Look, dude, Stannis is not Azor Ahai. He was never Azor Ahai. It's never gonna be Azor Ahai. Just let it go. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that is the thing, because Johnny, I don't know if you're watching right now, but Johnny the Irish Wildling, he's a Stannis fan, and he hates Daenerys. Like, literally, he hates Daenerys. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, oh shit, we just got a super chat from the boy Big Kev. He says, thank you for that, sir. He says, the North remembers. Do you think Dany will know the difference having sex with a dead guy versus a regular guy? So basically comparing Daario and Jon. Do you think she'll know the difference? I mean,
she should already know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe Jon, if anything, can last a little bit longer. You know, he's got a little bit of that rigor mortis, but I don't think Jon is really like like George did mention before season 7 came out, and everyone thought he was trolling. And I want your thoughts on that too. I don't know if you thought he was trolling on this, but where he basically said that Jon is a fire white, he's reanimated using fire magic. Him and Beric, he's like, you got all these fire whites running around, and then you also have these ice whites. Do you think that that's actually a thing? I think for the most part, for Jon, he's supposed to be the normal. Like, there might be a transformation in the books. There's definitely, if he does come back in the books, there's definitely going to be a transformation, because I think the most common theory is that he went into Ghost's body and being in a wolf and then coming back to life. You know what I mean? He's going to be changed. But on the TV show, for the most part, he's supposed to, I think, be the same. Like, he's literally not any different than he was before he died. So do you think that Jon is actually, like, is that really a thing? Do you think a fire white is a thing?
In the books, yes. In the show, probably not. In the show, it just seems like he's totally normal, but he won't be normal if they need some contrivance for a plot device. Like for instance, in the last season, like he like gets totally soaked in like water in the far north, and he should have died of hypothermia. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's because he's brought back from the dead, and he's immune to ice now." And so like I've noticed from the Game of Thrones writers that like whatever's like the most common like fan idea online, they will put that in the show. That is how ever since George R. R. Martin left, like whatever the most like common like fan consensus is, they put that in the show. Like they put all these big ideas in the show. So if people are saying all these things, it might make its way into the show. He might be something more, because it does not make sense for him to survive falling into the lake and then getting out and not freezing to death. So they could like fix that by being like, oh yeah, it's because of this. So I don't know if they intended it to, but
yeah, I think if anything, it may be him being a Firewhite doesn't change his personality. It just changes his ability to withstand more. I mean, because I could see it. Like Melisandre at the Wall, books and TV show, she doesn't need huge garments and furs because she's warm from R'hllor. So maybe with Jon being reanimated from R'hllor, he's got that fire in him. So it makes sense that he's able to withstand that. Like when I watched it on screen, I was like, okay, Jon's gonna survive all that and then freeze to death out here because there's no and then Benjen fucking shows up. So, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like maybe that's why he was able to survive that extreme cold, is because he never really, obviously he feels cold, but to the point of freezing, he won't. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Because one thing I noticed, it was really weird, and I'm kind of dropping a little bit of Easter eggs for the video I got coming up. When they're all sitting on that island the night over, when Beric freezes, or no, when Thoros freezes, Jon is like the only one who's asleep because he wakes up and then he realizes what's going on, and they're like standing over Thoros or whatever. And I need to rewatch that scene, but I think what they're hinting at is that Jon went to sleep and so did Thoros. That's why Thoros froze. Obviously, he froze and died and bled out from the polar bear attack. But the reason why he died was because he went to sleep. He stayed too still and then he froze in the night. So Jon went to sleep, but then he wakes up and he's not frozen to death. So maybe that's a little bit, I don't know. I like doing crazy half-baked theories like that and not really thinking about the main part of that too much, because then it takes away from if you're trying to, you know what I mean? You can't have too much evidence going against your theory. Just think about it lightly. You're like, oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I like it because they do say that like if you're like in like freezing temperatures, like if you fall asleep, like don't fall asleep because like you'll freeze. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be dope. All right, so we got questions coming in, but there were a few more questions that I wanted to address from the community section on my YouTube channel. There's a shameless plug there. I always post in my community section, and I've got a Q&A video coming out on these questions. Some of them I didn't cover in the video, so I'll be posting it again, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday for the next set of questions. But this one comes from, holy shit. Okay, no, not holy shit. It was a picture of Borat, and I'm like, is this a troll comment? I'm about to read it. This is from the user Hot Pie Gravy, and he says, how was Hodor speaking Hodor when Bran was young, when Bran didn't work into him until Bran was older? So basically, it's like a paradox, or like a time paradox. How did that happen?
I could explain it.
Okay.
Fuck the wop time flop. Nah. The reason is because these motherfuckers, they have no idea how to write anything esoteric and like magical that involves like time shifting or any of that. Like, because they don't know where I'm sure this is one of those crazy, complicated, esoteric, subtle ideas and concepts that George R. Martin has in store for the book. But when he gave this idea to these writers that are inexperienced with writing these kind of more esoteric things, it came out like it did in the show, which was it didn't make any fucking sense. But I feel like it'll make sense in the book. I feel like it has something to do with, I guess, kind of like I'm a Star Trek nerd, so I make up like technobabble, like kind of like temporal like feedback, maybe. Like it was kind of like pointing a mirror at a mirror, and it kind of like fried his mind or something like that. But we'll see how George R. R. Martin does that. But I agree that in the show it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It does not.
Yeah, it's almost like Back to the Future, where it's like when Marty McFly went back and somehow he had to get his parents back together. Why was that a story not shared with him when he was growing up? Because he had never done it yet. So how does that even happen in the first? You know what I mean? It's like that big question, like how the fuck? I don't know. I think if anything, it's gonna be way better explained in the novels. I think for the show, they're gonna do something that hints at it, and they're gonna leave it open for interpretation, because that makes it just got really dark in my room. I need to grab my light, but it makes it easier instead of having to explain exactly word for word what's going on. If you leave it open ended, you know what I mean?
It's a great scene on the surface in the show. Like you cannot watch that scene and not just be like, oh no. But when you look at it, it does make a lot of sense. And the fact I remember, like when that episode aired, D&D they do the little videos after every episode on YouTube. So they're talking about how George R. Martin gave them this idea And they're like, obviously what's happening here is the three-eyed crow's consciousness is being downloaded in the brain into Bran's mind. I'm like, what the fuck? In what way was that explained? Like that, are we supposed to get that that's happening from this scene that we're seeing? I'm like, but whatever.
I don't know. The more you do think about that, the more that really doesn't make any sense, because it didn't happen until those moments, until Bran had already gone north of the wall. Hodor was within the entire time. So I don't know. I guess you could be like, time is, or if instead of looking at time as linear, like going in a straight line, instead it bounces all around, so it's possible to jump from, you know what I mean? Because like it's definitely faster to travel like from this point to this point. Not, I guess you could say it would be faster to do it in a straight line.
Well, I think in the A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones universe, time is definitely set. What happened, so these are lost rules. What happened, basically. But like in the book, Bloodraven does say to Bran that like a werewood tree doesn't experience time like a man does. He says that for men, like time is a river. Oh God, I can't remember it. He says, yeah, for men, time is a river. It keeps flowing. But for a werewood tree, a werewood tree always stays in the same place. So time for a werewood tree is still. A werewood tree can exist at any point in time since the time it like started growing, basically. So a werewood tree is like, it's outside of the boundaries of time, essentially. So that's a cool thing. So Bran is definitely like traveling. We know that he can change the past now, but like earlier in the seasons, like when he calls to Ned and Ned hears him, the Three-Eyed Crow lies to him. And he says, your father didn't hear you. He heard like the wind or something. The exact same scene almost happens in the book where Bran calls out to his father and the Three-Eyed Crow lies and says, no, you didn't change the past. But I think Bran actually does have the potential to affect the past in some way. Or at least, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe not even affect the past, because like I said, what happened, but like he's saying that the possibility is there for you to go back and have some influence, even though that influence already happened, which is a paradox. But it's still, when you get into time travel paradoxes, you have to be okay with paradoxes. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think for the most part, they're probably just gonna, I mean, I don't know. I feel like George has the ability to explain it better. You know what I mean? And that could be part of the reason why it's taken so long to get Dance with Dragons, is because he kind of, with the way that the books were going, he kind of wrote himself into a corner. So he's got to write himself out of that corner. You know what I mean? I feel like that hasn't even, since that we haven't even really had the Hold the Door scene yet in the books. I feel like it's going to be he has the, that's something that obviously is going to happen in the books. In my opinion, that's one of the things that has definitely been spoiled for book readers coming up. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, and he's known about this for, didn't he used to be like a door person, if I'm not mistaken?
Hodor?
Like,
I'm not sure.
No, George himself. Didn't
George.
he used to be like an elevator person? Someone had mentioned that before. I feel like they were trolling me though.
I don't know.
But yeah, no. And I feel like it's going to be like George can, obviously he watches the TV show, but he can see how they did it and then make it even better. You know what I mean? And have numerous pages to be able to explain it. But I would like to see, and I can't believe we haven't seen yet, it is a ghost version of Summer. Not like a ghost version, but like a White Walker version. Like I feel like the special creatures, like special humans, special animals are given the ability, like dragons, are given the ability to have the White Walker. And I came up with this idea. I think it was like at the end. No, it was at the beginning of season 7 where I mentioned how like there's a hive mind obviously going on with the Night King and the White Walkers. And the White Walkers help share the burden of having to control all of these undead things. So special creatures, special animals, dragons, direwolves, they get giants, get special treatment, maybe not a regular giant, but a human giant hybrid like Hodor. They get special treatment. So maybe they're able to think independently, but ultimately they still have to go into what the hive mind's doing. Instead of the hive mind telling it exactly what to do, it tells it what the goal is, and then they come up with creative ways to do that. So if that's the case, we have the dragon being super smart and still intelligent, but it's also ultimately under the control of the Night King, and that's what you have with the White Walkers, which is why they're able to go out and get more whites to join, or like we saw the scouting party in episode 6. So what if that's the case with the direwolf, because it is a direwolf summer, and maybe it's given like a white wolf, because the polar bear was out by itself. Most of the other animals stay with the pack of the Night King. So maybe all of these animals that you see out on their own, or White Walkers or whatever, they're given a special version of this ice magic. So maybe that's given to ghosts, or God damn it, maybe that's given to summer, and we see summer. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's something that could more so be ventured in the books, better explained in the books, because there's just more time to do it. What do you think about that, man?
I don't know if I can handle seeing a White Walker summer. I might cry. I felt really bad about Summer's death in season 6, because it was just so sudden. Like, you barely show this wolf for like the past. We haven't seen this wolf for like the entire last season, and we're just now starting to see this wolf again. And then Summer just dies, saving everybody, and it's just like so fucking. It just kind of like makes me upset a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually, and that was before I really knew anything. Like, right, so I didn't start watching Game of Thrones until season 5. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, I'm late.
Yeah,
dude. So, and then I didn't start making videos until like a few months before season 6 aired. So when I saw this on the show initially, I'm like, I had only seen every episode probably like 3 or 4 times at that time. And Game of Thrones, that's not enough. You need to see every episode. It's like The Office. I've probably seen every episode of The Office 20 to 30 times, because I watch it every day at meals. When I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, The Office is on. So I don't watch TV, so I just throw it on. But that was not how it was with Game of Thrones. So I saw that happen, and I'm like, this is just like a John Wick. It's a cheap kill. They're trying to get us to feel some type of way. I'm like, can't believe they just killed this fucking dog like that. And then it like whimpers really sad. So I'm like, that's how I felt at first. There's an anime that does that. I don't know if you watch anime, but there's this one called it's like a Fate series. So it's got like Fate Encore, Fate Apocrypha, and in one of them there's this it's a really cool show, by the way. I think I mentioned this last time. If you guys like historical shit and you like anime, it's cool. These people are in a Holy Grail war, and they're allowed to summon 7 heroic spirits from different time periods, and they're actual real life people, right? So like they have Joan of Arc, they have King Arthur, who's actually a woman in this version, and like just different things like that. And one of them, they summon this one spirit who's called a caster, and he just starts killing kids. And that's like, it's a mature anime series. Yeah. But he's like crushing their skulls. And I'm like, this is literally just on here just to get you to feel like, that's how I felt with that summer scene. So maybe getting to see her again, or getting to see Summer again as a white, and then maybe be put to rest by Bran. Like, instead of actually having to kill her, maybe Bran is able to force the Night King out of her, and then she's laid to rest, and then they burn her body or something. I don't know. That was my long rant tangent. I'll pass the microphone off to you.
That's cool. You know what I want to see next season? I want to see. Okay, so you know how like it says like in the histories that the children of the forest, they could call up like all the beasts of the earth to like fight for them, and they could call up like snakes and wolves and birds and shit. I want to see like Bran go super warg and like have like an army of like wolves and like fucking birds and like fucking bats, and like to fight the others. That would be so fucking awesome. Like, because what is he gonna do? Just sit there in his fucking wheelchair? Like, dude, you have the power to like enter the mind of like animals and shit. Like, I would like be warging like polar bears and shit. Like, oh, dude, if he can warg all those goddamn ravens, and ravens are smart. Ravens can freaking talk. Ravens can recognize faces. Ravens are smart creatures. If he can warg ravens, he can work some fucking polar bears and fucking wolves and shit. And then, I want to see that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the last like panel discussion that I did, I thought it would be cool if Bran were to give wolf dreams to Rhaegal or Drogon, to sort of like make it easier for when he enters their mind, if he does end up doing that in the final battle, so he can like, just warg into their mind while they're at rest, and just put in images of him so they're familiar with him or something. So that way, when he does force his mind in there fully, they're more, sort of like using lube or something. I don't know. But I think it would be cool if he does that with Nymeria's super pack and sends them finally up north. I mean, they're probably headed. Yeah, they're probably headed there anyway, but I don't know. That'd be pretty cool.
See, if that happens, okay, I'll be fine with that, because I know in the book that Arya is going to have something to do with that super pack later on. So since she doesn't have the power in the show, it totally makes sense that it would be Bran that takes the army of direwolves to fight the others. That makes so much sense. That makes too much sense with this freaking budget that they've got, and they've already shown us these fucking wolves.
Yeah, they did. Oh my God. And that's the thing, they had to show Nymeria last season, otherwise the average average show watcher would be like, who the fuck is this? Because you remember before that episode come on, they showed Arya throwing rocks at her, which is so cruel in the books, the way that it's described. He's like, I threw the first one, she didn't quite run away. I threw the second one, it hit her in the face, blood started pouring. Like, I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it really is fucked up. But yeah, it's like that's perfect setup. They're showing us the super PAC, and they don't want to have them work with Arya because it's not time yet. They already knew that they had that big budget coming up in episode 4, but this next season, it's set up perfectly. We know they're out there. We know she's got this massive pack of regular wolves. I have to say, I always find myself saying regular wolves on my channel because I noticed when that episode first premiered, most people thought that those were just smaller direwolves. I'm like, no. You didn't see how big Nymeria is compared to the rest of them, like how little she makes Arya look. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that there's no way they're not going to do that. If they don't, they're fools.
I mean, because it's so badass. Let me tell you something about people in the audience. If you have not read A Feast for Crows, so like all through that book, like people are saying like, there's this fucking crazy ass big ass pack of wolves that's running around the Riverlands. There's like 100 of these motherfuckers, and they're not afraid of people. Like, someone, what are we gonna do about this? So it's like you keep hearing about this shit, and you're like, oh, when is that gonna come back up? And you know it's Arya, because she keeps dreaming of Nymeria and the pack. So it's like, it's so cool, man. So it's really, when you think about it, it's really Arya running around through the Riverlands wreaking havoc. Arya is like a wild little wolf, like warring Nymeria at night, wreaking havoc, fucking that shit up. I have no doubt in my mind that the reason Nymeria is so successful is because that Arya has been warging her at night and making her successful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's got her influence subconsciously. Yeah. I think I don't know. I feel like it would just be a waste if they didn't do that. Like it's such, and that's the thing too, is like I feel like we're going to, another foolish thing would be to not kill. We've got all of these secondary characters who were technically pushed up to the top tier because everyone else is dead. You know what I mean? It's the last season. I feel like it would be a waste to not kill off a major character every episode. Yeah, kill them off. And then one of the ways to make up for that is by having a badass scene of all of Nymeria's super PAC coming in and just destroying, like the same way that Daenerys did. And that's another thing too. Daenerys with just one dragon mounted. And I think there's a significance between a regular dragon and a dragon just flying, or a dragon flying by itself and a dragon with an actual mount on it. 2 heads are better than 1. There's a reason why ancient Valyrians would ride their dragons into battle and not just send them in using like a mental link. So the only reason why Viserion, in my opinion, was taken down was because he didn't have a rider. Drogon almost got hit, but guess what? She moved out of the way because she saw, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. So I think, and also not only is Daenerys' magic increased by her dragons, but their magic is increased by them. And maybe someone of ancient Valyrian blood. So if we have Jon on Rhaegal, we saw one dragon mounted destroy a quarter of the Night King's army in like 3 fucking seconds. Who's to say that Daenerys isn't going to wipe out the Night King almost immediately, especially if she's armored and Jon Snow's mounted on a dragon? Like, I know it's too much. I know it's like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, Jon riding a dragon, like he just met Drogon. Like, that's out of nowhere. Yes, of course. But it could be, like Lucifer, Lucifer means Lightbringer mentioned. It could be like out of a desperation thing. It's like Daenerys is almost dying and Jon Snow's like, fuck, I need to get on Rhaegal. You know what I mean? It could totally be out of a situation like that. I think, I don't know. I forget what I was getting at the main point.
You know what? I have a theory. I think that Jon Snow is the son of Daenerys and the Night King from the future. Okay. So in the end, Daenerys and the Night King have to get fucking married. They have to join ice and fire. And so they have sex, and then she has Jon Snow. And then Bran takes the baby into the werewood net and sends it back in time and like gives it to fucking Lyanna, and he says, give this to Ned and make him promise not to tell anybody that the baby's from the future. And that's what's going on here. That's what's happening. I figured this shit out. Ice and Fire. He's the song of Ice and Fire.
That's like the what you call it? That's like remember when we did the Daenerys panel, someone had came up and did the time traveling fetus thing? They were talking about that. Someone had asked the audience, they were like, what's the craziest theory? And someone had stood up and was like, and then they explained it. I was like, yeah, that's fucking nuts. Like,
it's the answer. It's the truth. Everyone knows it. Watch the shit. Watch when the last book comes out.
The clues have been there this whole time. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the chat. So if you have some questions, please start submitting them with hashtag Q&A. Danny McKay says, solid theory, Quinn.
Do you think we will see White Hodor? I think they're not going to miss the opportunity to show us that. I don't know. They want to get you in the feels. They're going to pull out all the stops in this last season.
Yeah, I think it would just be a waste, especially since he was on the show for so long. Then he took that hiatus. Then he came back, and then he ultimately died. I think that's the thing. Like if we couldn't show him, and remember they mentioned it too during the flashback. If Hodor wasn't a pussy and he swung us, or if Hodor wasn't the way that he was, and decided to swing a sword, he'd be a badass person. Everyone says that all throughout every season. Someone mentions that. And then it was mentioned when they go back to when he was younger, Ned tried to teach him how to fight. So if we can't get to see Hodor whooping ass for the good side, we're going to get to see Hodor whooping ass for the bad side. And you're going to get to see what Hodor was like if he swung a sword, except for it's going to be most likely killing someone that I had this theory that it was basically like a reverse hold the door. Bran's going to hold the door to free Hodor's mind one last time before he actually dies, so that he doesn't die under the grasp of the Night King. So basically, like, Hodor comes into contact with Bran somehow, but saying what I just said, I think it would be not awesome, but I think it would be some just desserts if Bran is killed by Hodor, like as he's doing his final thing, which is going to be, sacrificing himself to save Jon and Dany, or just to save mankind. And that's the thing too. If the Night King dies, what's the purpose of having Bran? You don't really need him around. So,
not even to interrupt you.
But yeah, I don't know. It could all go down that way. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that. Okay, so first I want to say that like it would piss me off so much if like the show, if like by like season 2 they kill off Bran and he does nothing in the new season. If they just don't know what to do with Bran and they just kill him off early, I would like die of like hatred. But like, okay, but honestly, I think Bran is eternal. I don't see Bran not literally eternal. Well, yeah, kind of literally eternal. I feel like he is like that consciousness, the three-eyed crow. I feel like it continues from body to body, and that it's kept passing down throughout the bloodline of the Children of the Forest, and only recently transferred to like humans. So I feel like I don't think Bran is gonna die. I feel like the werewood tree, he's gonna be there waiting, recording everything for like, because he knows eventually he'll be the Kwisatz Haderach. He'll know the future and the past. That's the point where he's evolving to. He's evolving to a place where he will know the future and the past. Absolutely. So I don't think he'll die. I think he has to be there to shape everything. I think Bran is kind of like the puppet master shaping everything. Get what I mean?
Yeah. So not Bran like himself, but his lineage, almost like the possession or pseudo possession of the Blood Raven in his body. Yeah. So his consciousness. Yeah, for sure. I could totally get down with that. Who do you think if Bran's body, because that's the thing too, is like the three-eyed Raven doesn't necessarily need to walk around, but Bran is damaged goods almost. What if if for some reason Bran does die, who do you think, just out of the people that we have on the show, who do you think would be a good person to pass that on to?
I mean, I think it would have to be someone that has the power, and we don't know anybody that does. And yeah, I feel like Bran is okay. So I'm gonna talk about Dune for a little bit. So Jordan Martin is a fan of Dune. So in Dune, you have this thing called preborn, where these people can be born with like the memories of their ancestors. And the problem is that if they can't form their own ego, then these stronger egos of their ancestors can take possession of the consciousness. And it's called being possessed, and it's called abomination. And George R. Martin uses that exact same terminology when he talks about stealing the body of someone. He says that it's an abomination. So in the show, when Bran is talking to Mira, he says, I'm so much more than Bran now, because he has downloaded all these other egos and consciousnesses, and he's part of a collective now. He's not just Bran anymore. So that's an interesting way to Look at all
Yeah,
this.
almost like the Avatar, the Last Airbender, like how Avatar can access. There's a certain state that they can go into to access all the previous iterations of the Avatar, and then
Mm-hmm.
have, like that collective consciousness. That's dope, man. We just did some. We should do. I know we got another collab coming up scheduled, but we should try to. I want to focus on that. Someone clip this on Twitch. You can like make a little clip of this shit. I'm gonna. That was dope. We got it. We got it. Yeah, I like that. All right, so yeah, we're starting to get some Q&As. Okay, this is from Scotty McCloy, and he says, and I'm gonna let you answer this one, Quinn. He says, "Will we see moon meteors in season 8?"
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
And my answer will be go and check out Lucifer Means Lightbringer on YouTube. He's the
He's the moon
resident
meteor guy.
astronomer. Yeah, he's the resident astronomer in the Song of Ice and Fire community. So go and check out his channel. I don't think that. Sorry, go ahead.
He can describe his moon meteor theory better than us, but basically, it's like his theory is that back in the day, because you know how there's the legend of there being 2 moons in the sky. So his idea is that back in the day, there was a moon, but it got hit by a comet or something, and it like all of these asteroids fell to the Earth, and that's what's created the long night.
Mm.
And then also the thousand dragons pouring from it were the comets falling to the Earth, because it would have looked like dragons to the ancient people, apparently. So that's just kind of the basis of it. But go check his stuff out, because he can explain it way better than me.
Yeah, that's dope, dude. I like that. That's really dope. Because hell yeah, ancient idiots would have been like, "Those are dragons," 100%. That's how they would have seen it. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so this one's from John Haymaker, and he says, "Q&A, is the Night King coming for Baby Sam?" I'm going to link you to a video that I did. It's down below in the description. That'll be my answer. But in short, that's one of the many reasons why he's coming south. What do you think, Quinn?
Possibly. See, there's so many questions. In the books, I could totally see the White Walkers like dipping in to take that baby. But in the show, I don't know if there is any significance. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a lot of the big theories, I think, still like stem from the book. Like people look at all this evidence that's in the book that's not really in the show, and they go, "I think this is going to happen." But then if you really look at the show, is there anything to really to suggest that that's going to happen?
Well,
why
yes,
would they need the baby?
When Sam became Sam the Slayer, the White Walker came after him and was really, for all we know, the only reason was to get the baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they came for the baby at that point, but would they really need it at the point that they've like crossed the wall and came to Westeros, or is it, or are they just like it's part of the oath, it's part of the promise, we have to honor that, and we're going to come anyways? I guess.
I think it's part of it. I think it is part of it. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just wondering, because I don't see, that's my thing. I feel like if they did make that oath, because I do think that they were coming for the baby, obviously, but I'm saying I wonder if they're gonna go into that in the show, if they're gonna have like are they gonna like, because I don't know if the average show watcher like gets that nuance. You know what I mean? I don't even know if they even like have that in their general like awareness that baby, if they even remember that. You know what I'm saying? Because that was so long ago, and we haven't even. So I'm saying the show only does what their average viewer would get. You know what I mean? I mean, we talk about this stuff because we're on the internet. We're like discussing this. We're like making videos about it. But I feel like the average watcher would be like, "Why are they coming after that baby? I don't even get it," and it wouldn't even matter to them.
Well, I think here's the thing with there's a little bit of inconsistency with the intelligence of the average show watcher credited from Dan and Dave. So sometimes they give a shit that is clearly there, like the Omega, the fatal symbol that's all throughout Game of Thrones. They don't really mention it. They don't tell us exactly what the fuck it is, but it's all over the place. So they assume we're intelligent enough to catch that. When in my opinion, the average show watcher is going to be like, okay, what the fuck? I thought it was a bundle of bodies before they tried to do something to scare the humans, and then now I'm seeing it at the creation of the Night King. Also doesn't make any sense because it's not, and then he wears it in his brooch. You know what I mean? Like they are inconsistent with the amount of intelligence they think the average show watcher has. But something like a White Walker coming after baby Sam then killing that White Walker, and the only purpose of getting that baby in the first place was to make a White Walker, there's no way. because not only did the Night King send one of his, and that's the thing, I think that the Night King has to, obviously can't procreate normally. So he has to have, it's a weird set of rules. Maybe he has to have at least 12 White Walkers to control the amount of, or maybe the number of White Walkers he needs increases with the amount of army that he needs. So not only did they steal something that was promised to him from Craster, but then Sam turned around and killed one of his top associates, which is one of those White Walkers. So now the Night King is even more so pissed. But I'm in no way saying that that's the only reason why the Night King is coming south. I think the main reason is because Bran was touched and he's coming after Bran. I think he wanted to, like, I think he's lonely. I think there's, because, you know, that's something that hasn't really been, and I think initially in the TV show, the White Walkers were going to speak and it was going to sound like the crackling of ice, or they do. He opens up his mouth and it's like a screeching sound. But I think some of the motivation behind the Night King is like, it all seems evil and he's just the great other and he is evil, but he started off as a human. So some of his motivation are going to be some human aspects. And one things that humans have been seeking out since the beginning of time is a partner. Like, you want someone to share your life with. So maybe that's what the Night King's doing. Maybe he's not only looking for the babies. Maybe they don't turn into White Walkers. Maybe they turn into, like, you know, just everlong babies. And he's like, oh, I got a baby now. The baby looks like me. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of an adoption thing. That's tenfold. But I'm just saying, like, maybe his whole goal is to get others who are like him to join him. And or maybe the only way that he can rest is by finding a suitable replacement. And the only suitable replacement is by finding someone like him. So that could be Bran. Maybe it could be Jon Snow. Maybe he knows the only way to get to Jon Snow is by getting to Bran. So maybe the only reason why he came to that cave was to take Bran hostage so that Jon Snow would eventually come north and then Jon Snow can replace him. I don't know. We're going on a tangent.
Yeah. Okay. See, Gilly's at Winterfell now, isn't she? In the show, they went to they're at Winterfell.
Yep.
So Winterfell, that's pretty much the first frontier. That's where shit is gonna go down, right? It's like Winterfell. You got the oldest castle in Westeros. This is gonna be where the battle for Westeros happens. But I feel like the final battle will happen somewhere in the Riverlands. But this is where the shit like goes down. It's gonna be battle at Winterfell. So so now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I could see them maybe like putting in some in there where they try to take the baby. I wonder how that'll go down.
Yeah, and not necessarily even make it seem like they won't even have to say straight out like the White Walker points at the baby or something. Maybe it could just be they're coming after Sam because Sam killed one of them and stole one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so we got another I didn't want to I guess we'll take maybe 3 or 4 more questions and then we'll wrap it up because I sprung this on you last minute and you know I feel bad taking up that much of your time. Okay, so this is I'll just pick the most recent one and then I'll scroll back up while you're answering this to get more. This is from Nick Hill Ariel, and I don't know if I butchered your name, but they said Q&A book stuff. Will Stoneheart ever know the truth about Jon?
About Jon not being Ned's son? I mean, maybe, but I don't know if it'll matter to her in the end. I don't know if she'll necessarily care because she is consumed by vengeance. Like she's no longer Catelyn Stark. All that she wants is revenge and justice for what not her kind of justice, not even like real justice. She just wants to kill anyone that could have ever possibly had anything to do with what happened to her family. So in the end, it's not even. I don't even think she cares. I don't even think she care. Like all that matters to her is vengeance.
Yeah, I think with her not even really speaking like clearly, I think she's not going to obviously make it until the end. I think, like you said, I agree. She's all about vengeance. So her finding out Jon Snow's true lineage won't really matter. Maybe if she does find out about it, maybe just like Barrett gave her the kiss of life, maybe she's the one who brings Jon back in the books. Maybe she's the one who goes.
My thing is why she's not gonna give a fuck. Rob is dead.
Yeah.
Her fucking eldest son is dead. Like,
well, maybe she'll be convinced. Because I think the last, if I'm not mistaken here, I think the last we sort of hear about her is when Brienne is on her way with Jaime to go and meet with Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah.
Like she tricked Jaime pretty much into going with her to go and meet with him. But I don't know, maybe if Arya were to pop up and maybe Arya convinces her that Jon's the only person who can seek vengeance for House Stark. You're all about vengeance. Why don't you give your life to save him? I don't know.
My thing also.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, one thing also is that Catelyn Stark is a bitch. I mean, she's cool in the show. She's much nicer in the show, but like yeah, I'm just saying she's not like she's super aloof. She's like totally like, oh, I'm a noble lady, and she's I hate the whatever.
All right, and this is from the drowned god of tits and wine. He's a patron of mine. He says, Q&A, this is a book question, but if/when Dragonbinder is used, will the effect be permanent? So will it permanently turn someone into stone, or will it only temporarily?
Dragonbinder turns people to stone. The effects of Dragonbinder, let's see, permanent or not.
That's what I thought. Like, it's obviously it uses to control dragons, but I thought once it's used, it turns the user into stone, right?
No. Well, it like if you blow the horn, you like cook from the inside. Like you're
that's way more fucking brutal than turning to stone. God damn. Yeah. Jesus Christ. That's intense.
Yeah, like so in Feast for Crows, like Euron brings the horn to the King's Moot, and the guy that blows it, he like collapses and he's like bleeding. His like tattoo, he has a tattoo of a bird on his chest, and it's like bleeding, and he's like smoke is coming out of his mouth, and they cut him open, and like there's like ashes. He's like cooked from the inside. And so and the idea is that you claim the horn with blood and you get someone else to blow it, I guess. But I guess like the Valyrians, they would have blown it and it wouldn't have like cooked them. So I think if Daenerys blew it, then it would be like she'd have full control over her dragon. So I could see in the book Daenerys getting hold of the dragon binder and blowing it, and then that binding her fully to her dragons, and that's how she gains total control of them. Because the reason that they're so wild and uncontrollable in the books is because she doesn't know any of the ancient Valyrian spells that they used to tame the dragons. And so if she got a hold of Dragonbinder and she blew it, she wouldn't burn up on the inside like everyone else because she is Valyrian. She has the blood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and neither would Fagon if he's a true Valyrian. And then same with Jon Snow if he's a true R plus L equals J turns to be true. But I forgot, didn't see this. There was a super chat that slipped by. There's no message with it. It's from my boy Danny Jeter. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. There was another. Did you have any more thoughts on that? Because there's another book question too.
No, we can move on.
Okay. This is from Ottila Angel, and it says, "Who broke the pact and how did they do it? When did it happen?" So that the pact of the Isle of Faces, I'm assuming.
Or do you mean like the pact between the others and the children and humanity? Because I have a theory where like the that what ended the battle back in the day was the fact that it wasn't like them fighting the others all the way back necessarily, but like them coming to an agreement and being like, okay, we'll go here, we'll do this, we make these certain agreements. Because you have a giant ice wall. How do you have an ice wall that protects against ice beings, especially when George R. Martin has stated specifically that the others can manipulate ice in ways that humans can't even possibly imagine? So I feel like the wall was probably built by a combination of men, the giants, the children, and the others, and that there was a pact made then, and that something happened in recent history that like broke the pact, and that's why they're coming back now. Because I feel like ancient history is kind of like skewed, and we don't really know what happened because that's thousands of years ago. We don't know exactly what happened then, but I feel like at some recent point, a pact was broken. As far as who broke it, I feel like it was probably men.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's no way that men alone could build the ice wall. I think what you're saying, that's an interesting take on it. So maybe the others built the wall to keep the humans from coming into their land. So they're like, you guys are death and destruction. Stay below this wall and we won't have no problems. But then the humans started sending the wildlings north of the wall. The wildlings started taking over and doing human shit because that's what humans are inevitably going to do. It's destroy the environment and, just make it so that it's not how it was when they got here. And then you've also got the Night's King realizing that, they're coming north, and maybe that's what gets the motivation coming up. You have Bloodraven north of the wall. So that's how the pact gets broken, is by men going north of the wall when they're supposed to stay south of the wall. So maybe that's...
What do we know about the others? They come from the land of always winter. And what's another piece of information that we have? We know that wildlings very, very far north worshipped gods of like ice and darkness and death. in the furthest reaches of the north. I feel like they went up there and they woke something up. They woke the others up. Maybe they were like underground in like some like ice deal underground, and the men encroached upon their land again, and they woke them up, and the others woke up and they said, "Okay, this was the pact. You said you'd never come here. You said you'd never bother us, but you did, and we're gonna take this now." They said we're gonna take it now. We said we made a pact last time. You fucked it up. We're gonna take it, and that's just all there is to it.
And one thing that would waken a dormant creature would be war and bloodshed. So maybe those wildling tribes that were up there that far north and that worshiped them ended up having feuds, and then their bloodshed on their lands is what woke them up.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're like, you know what? Fuck all humans. We're taking them all. So this doesn't happen again. All right. So we got one more question here. Well, we'll do two more because this one's kind of a fun one. Eddie15243 says, are the books worth reading?
A Song of Ice and Fire is the greatest fantasy book series.
Not only is it worth reading, but it's also worth listening to. If you can't commit to, 4,000 pages, sitting down, reading the material, there's always listening too. But it's definitely the best way to do it. What I found out when I'm listening to something, I don't absorb it all the way. It's like recently what I've been doing is following along with it in the books. So as they're reading along with it, like you don't necessarily follow it word for word, but just be on the same page. So in case something doesn't quite sink in, like I find myself pausing it all the time, going back and being like, what? He said this word weird as shit. Like, let me go read that myself so that I can, you know what I mean? But okay, so the actual last question that we are going to be doing, and I wanted to keep this in under an hour. Before you guys all leave, please slap a like on this. The like goal will be 142. All right, so this is from shit. I had it right here, but then it got scrolled down from the chat. Okay. This is from Chris Weinberger, and he says, Q&A, a lot of people think Dany will be Jon's Nisa, but do you guys think it's possible that Jon turns out to be Dany's Nisa? Whereas I'm assuming like Jon sacrifices himself so that Daenerys can become Azor Ahai. I like that version of the story. I personally don't think, and I'm going to pass this off here to Quinn, I don't think that Nisa is even going to be a thing. I think if there's one person for it, it would be Melisandre, but I don't know.
I don't know if we'll. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, anybody can sacrifice themselves for anything, and people on the internet are going to be like, "Oh, that's symbolic for Nisa." So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get mad though, because that's what we as content creators help breed those types of people. We're always looking for.
It's our fault.
Yeah, like I read this. I think I read an article. I either read it or it was like a video that I saw. But basically, people that make videos on the internet, whether it's fan theories or just talking about their favorite parts of the show or just anything like that, they have a responsibility of helping to build up to this level of hype that the movie industry in the TV series for Game of Thrones or whatever, that they'll never be able to live up to. And I know for a fact I get crunk and hype as shit in my videos, and I say some shit that'll probably never happen. So I 100% take responsibility for, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of those things where it's like, if no matter which way they do it, if there's no person physically stabbed through the chest with a sword and then that sword ignites on fire, you can find another way of looking at it. Whereas like Jon Snow had sex with Daenerys, Daenerys dies during childbirth. Jon Snow stabbed Nisa through the heart with his sword, which is phallic for a penis, or symbolism for a penis, and this is how Daenerys died. So, there's always going to be something that you could sort of find there. But on that point, I want to wrap this video up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Quinn, can you please tell everyone where we can find you at? I linked your YouTube channel down below in the description. If you want to link your Twitter, just here, I'll do that. But yeah, do you want to tell everyone where?
Check me out. Ideas of Ice and Fire on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. Watch some of my videos. Go over there. Check them out. See if you like them. You might.
Nice, short and brief. I didn't even get a chance to get your YouTube link yet. Do you have anything special planned coming up? I know you've been doing a lot of Dune stuff.
I've been doing a lot of Dune stuff. I just put out this video on the worst episode of Game of Thrones. At least what I think is the worst episode of Game of Thrones. I put out a video on that, and I was ranting about it. I put out a new Song of Ice and Fire theory video about necromancers, where I'm talking about Qyburn and Marun and Miri Mazdur, who are all connected, by the way. If you want to know how they're connected, you can check out that video. No, they are. They really are.
Speaking of the necromancers, it made me think of it earlier when you were talking about how they awaken these ice creatures that might be dormant. Something similar to that happens in I think it's the Two Towers. Like Lord of the Rings stuff, I definitely only movies. I think in 5th grade we got to watch the Hobbit cartoon, like the one from the 80s or whatever. And because of that, a couple people brought in their Hobbit books and we got to like they would read a few. I don't know, it was 5th fucking grade, but isn't there a part where they go somewhere and the Nazgul, like going to this place, the necromancer awakens these creatures that are basically dormant. Like they were the men who worshipped the rings of power, that they became the 9 ring wraiths or something. It's something in my brain lit up when you were talking about how the Night King and the White Walkers could be dormant. I don't know, but I want to, maybe we can talk about that more.
In the Lord of the Rings, Aragorn does awaken like these the zombie dead warriors.
Yeah, no, these guys were evil. Like that's how apparently this is how and it might have happened actually in the Hobbit, and maybe that's why it's fresh in my mind because I've seen the Hobbit movies recently. But they get awakened by a necromancer, and there's someone who's
okay. See, okay, look. Yeah, I almost see. Okay, I know what you're talking about. See, the necromancer is actually Sauron.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sauron awakens the Nazgul. So this is like after the first battle. See, way back in the day, there was this dude named Morgoth, and this dude was like fucking serious deal. He was so fucking bad that everyone just had to fucking team up and like lock him in this like fucking other realm.
Yeah.
And he was Sauron was his commander. And so when Sauron did his deal, he gave out all these fucking rings, and then the 9 men became the Nazgul, and then when his soul kind of like wakes back up, he becomes the necromancer. And
they were corrupted by the power of there's I think it's called the Exploring series, but I got into it. They do videos very similar to yours, how you're doing with Dune and stuff. He does it on the Lord of the Rings stuff. That there's so much fucking lore to. I didn't realize there were like 9 worlds, and like the humans were on the 3rd or 4th world, and like there's all these different creations. It's crazy.
Dude,
it's crazy.
Lord of the Rings is that's the original. This is like Tolkien is the father of fantasy. Like that, people call him that for a reason.
Yeah, but it just made me think that what if there's not a person, and they may not even be aware of it, but what if there's a person who awakened the Night King and who brought them down? They just don't even know it yet. That person could have been Bloodraven, who is now Bran. So maybe Bran is actually Sauron, and the Night King and his forces are the ring wraiths, and they're all coming down to basically Bran doesn't realize what the bigger destiny is yet. I don't know. On that moment, I'm going to. But yeah, on that moment, I'm going to wrap this video up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to give a super special thank you to Quinn for joining me for this. The Twitter is linked in the chat. I'm also going to link it down below in the description, and make sure you go check out his channel. Make sure you slap likes a lot on his videos. Lights a lot. I don't fucking know. All right, but yeah, thanks again for joining me. I want to thank you all so much for watching. My name's Mark. Thank you, Quinn. This has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.